everyone. Welcome to the Pittsburgh City Council budget hearing for Public Works. I'm Councilperson Barb Warwick, and I'm the chair of the committee. So for this hearing, we'll hear from the Department of Public Works, including administration, environmental services, facilities, operations, and capital projects. So to start us off, we have our public DPW team at the table. If you'd like to go through and introduce yourselves. And well, actually, why don't we start with Director McDevitt? Will give us a brief overview of the department, and then you can all introduce yourselves and give your presentation.
Thank you, Councilperson. It's not going to be super brief because this is a robust department, so buckle up. The mission of the Department of Public Works is to maintain the city's assets related to accessing public streets, parks, facilities, rehabilitating public structures, and maintaining the city's natural environment, provide support to other departments, administer a solid waste and recycling system that promotes a litter-free environment, and to ensure public safety responding to weather-related events. The Department of Public Works is divided into the following bureaus: the Bureau of Administration, Bureau of Operations, Environmental Services, and the Bureau of Facilities. An overview of the Bureau of Administration: there is a total of 31 full-time positions in the 2025 budget, which is an increase of 7 positions from 2024. There were a number of swaps throughout this year that came to a savings of just about $10,000. And overall, there's an increase of $459,000 or 28.7%. Summary of non-personnel changes: overall, there is a $566,156 increase in non-personnel expenses. Most of that is related to an increase in utility bills. Next is the Bureau of Operations. There is a total of 286 full-time positions in the 2025 general fund. That is a decrease of 30 from 2024. There was one swap last year that totaled savings of about $57,000. Overall, it is a decrease of $382,000 or about 2.4%. A summary of non-personnel changes. Overall, there is a $578,000 decrease in non-personnel expenses. That is mostly due to a decrease in property services for landscaping and tree removal, and a decrease of $288,000 for supplies and materials, and $2,000 decrease in professional and technical services, and a $32,000 decrease in other services for transportation. For the Bureau of Environmental Services, there's a total of 203 full-time positions, which is an increase of 8 from 2024. That's about 2.7% increase. A quick summary of non-personnel changes: there is a $49,000 decrease in non-personnel expenses for maintenance for e-recycling, and a $7,000 decrease in supplies. The Bureau of Facilities has a total of 89 full-time positions in the 2025 budget, which is one less from last year. There were a number of swaps that totaled $43,808 in savings, and overall there is a $241,000 increase, or about 4.6%. Summary of non-personnel changes: overall, there is a $4,628,829 decrease in non-personnel expenses, largely due to the removal of the ARPA funding, which bolstered the facilities budget. Which means there's $3 million decrease in property services and a $1.6 million decrease in supplies. This is where the Bureau of Facilities is where all the capital projects lie for DPW. Overall, there's $37.9 million total for DPW Facilities Bureau projects. Those are listed out for you there. There is a lot of them. We're almost there. Lastly, trust funds. There's a handful of trust funds that DPW accesses and uses. First is the Parks Tax Trust Fund, which is for improvement, maintenance, creation, and operation of public parks, improving park safety, providing equitable funding for parks in underserved neighborhoods, securing matching funds and services from charitable city parks conservancies, and is subject to City Council's authorization. It also houses 38 DPW positions within that trust fund. Next is the Liquid Fuels Trust Fund, which is for various street-related improvement costs, including labor, street lighting, salt, and other miscellaneous items. Next is the Regional Asset District Public Works Trust Fund for any and all expenses relating to the 6 regional parks, which are Frick, Hayes, Woods, Highland Park, Emerald View, Riverview, and Shenley Park. And just to note, the RAD Trust Fund includes 86 DPW positions, which is an increase from 13 from 2024. And the Public Works Trust Fund, which is for road salt and specific project-related expenditures as defined by the corresponding cooperations agreements. And lastly, the Shade Tree Trust Fund is for any and all expenses incurred during the implementation of tree-related projects, programs, and promotions recommended by the Shade Tree Commission. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. So, Director, you want to go down the line and then give your presentation?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Director McDevitt. Thank you, Councilwoman. Chris Hornstein, I'm the Director of Public Works, so I'll invite my team here to introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm Bill Crean, Deputy Director.
Chip Gall, Assistant Director of Facilities.
Marcel Newman, Assistant Director, Administration.
And Don Mudrick, Manager of Personnel and Finance for Public Works.
And yes, thank you. We have a presentation. We want to talk about a few things today where I think we've made some really nice success stories for our residents. First things first, our theme this year is, last year it was stability. This year our theme is onward, and how we're looking onward. But first, to do that, we'd like to take a look back at 2024 and some of the successes that we've had for our employees and our residents. And then we'll look at, some of the changes in the current budget and how those might impact residents moving forward. So looking back into 2024, on the topic of safety, since we instituted the real-time safety system back in August of 2022, we've reduced injuries in total by 53%. Comparatively speaking, if you look citywide at the DART rate, which is a metric that we use to measure injuries, across the city, those numbers have more or less flatlined or stayed consistent, but we continue to decrease. So I'm really proud of the work of all of us here in addressing employee safety. I think it's one of the great things that we can do to provide respect and dignity to our employees. We make this a daily habit every day. There is the financial benefit that comes with that and reduced workers' compensation claims, but really I think this is as much about supporting our residents and supporting our workforce with care and compassion. Moving on to the Bureau of Facilities, just a couple major capital project highlights. 412 Boulevard of the Allies has been complete. Folks are moved in. The one-stop counter is open. We recently completed the upgrade to the Shenley Ice Rink chillers. This allows us to have skating more often. In fact, this picture here that you see was taken on a night when it was 50 degrees. So, and folks were skating happily. Then we also completed Anderson Playground in Shenley Park this year as well. Some sustainment highlights, numerous roofs and HVAC units that we replaced. Assistant Director Gall, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything not covered here.
No, I think I could just clarify the HVAC system replacements include RTUs, actually it does say RTUs and boiler replacements that Director McDevitt had mentioned. Those are expenses that were covered by the ARPA injection of cash that we had in our operating budget. So that's all I'll add for now.
Moving on to the topic of cleanliness. So we've done a lot of work on the front of cleanliness this year. On private vacant properties, cleanups that we've performed. So just a little bit of history. Pre-COVID, 2019, we had performed 115 cleanups. In 2023, coming out of COVID, coming in with a little bit of additional staff, we performed 87. We've since exceeded that. We did 270 cleanups this year in 2024. So this is an increase not over what we did in 2023, but also just historic levels of vacant property cleanup. So this was no new additional staff or equipment in 2024. This is just an increased management focus. So we've had tremendous gains, and we've got to note that that kind of improvement's not sustainable without looking towards having more available equipment to support us in that work. We've had a renewed focus on our central business district cleanliness, as well as just working with our external partners on a variety of cleanliness. I'd be remiss if I didn't just thank a lot of our external partners for all of the incredible support they give us. So, some of those folks are the Downtown Partnership, River Life, Friends of the Riverfront, CEO Works, Land Force, Allegheny Cleanways, the PA Resources Council, Parks Conservancy are all partners that we work with every single day to help make the city as clean, as beautiful as we can. We provided significant services for the unhoused with increased focus on the jail trail and the Southside Riverfront Trail. And we have really I think, dedicated coordination with public safety and our county partners on provision of services for our unhoused. And so, we work with that, and we thank public safety for their leadership in that work as well. Street sweeping, I said we've noted an uptick in citizen concerns around our street sweeping services. So we have had a lack of availability of street sweepers due to maintenance issues. However, we have partnered with city planning through a grant opportunity to provide a smaller street sweeper. So this is capable of servicing alleyways in some of our denser neighborhoods where our current equipment can't fit. So we're kind of excited by that to get that piece of equipment in the door. And Deputy Director Crean, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything about any of our cleanliness activities.
Well, just addressing litter throughout the city. Each of the 5 supervisors is well aware of the problem areas in their respective divisions where they address the litter. Usually it's spots where there are no residents, and the fast food bag goes out the window and the soda can goes out the window. So they all address their own concerns.
A little bit more on the cleanliness topic. This year we've had 20 restroom buildings open to the public in our parks during the spring, summer, fall season. Just so everybody's aware, due to limitations with heating, we cannot keep our physical park restrooms open during the winter months. But we've partnered in a variety of locations to do that. We continue to learn. I'm very proud that we're actually providing those physical restrooms open to the public in a variety of locations throughout the city. In terms of our anti-litter enforcement, so currently, the vast majority of these come in through 311. We've had over 8,000 case files. I won't get into the details, but the vast majority of these cases were able to be resolved without any court action. So only 7% of our cases that we get actually go to court. So we're very proud of our ability to work with residents to mitigate, address these concerns. I think it also is important to note that many of our illegal dumping sites, a lot of times they coincide with our vacant property cleanup activities. So sometimes those two situations go hand in glove, if you will. And so we look to our vacant property cleanups to address a lot of our illegal dumping locations. We've also had some, significant illegal dumping cleanup along the riverfront, the aforementioned Island Boat Club. A lot of significant work there to clean up a lot of illegal dumping that's happened over the past. That was really a substantial effort, and I really thank the crews at the First Division and Construction Division for all their hard work in getting a lot of those materials out of there. So this year we focused on stability and learning about ourselves as well. So we established learning programs on the following items. So in management, we got together to self-identify areas of improvement. So all the learnings that you see here are a direct result of that work done by the department leadership, ourselves here, as well as our next level down over the course of the year. This involves us going out and observing more work. This involves us coordinating, learning about the best practices that we can do and best ways that we can support our staff. We've done this to have more knowledge sharing, just not only amongst the bureaus and public works, but between departments as well. So some other examples of that, we took those opportunities. We created a variety of standard operating procedures in forestry for various situations where they needed to be updated for either employee safety or greater resident support. In our Bureau of Administration, we've increased our improvement in candidate hiring experience, so we've reduced non-responsive actions from candidates by 50%, just through better increased coordination and communication. Our Bureau of Administration has begun the initial steps in going paperless by utilizing existing digital resources, to help us have better awareness and sharing of information. Going on to some of the other learnings that we've had, obviously it's hard to separate the vehicles from the work of Public Works. They're integral to what we do. So we made a concerted effort this year to coordinate with our fleet services and do all the things that we can within Public Works to better support the maintenance activity of our vehicles. They're critical to our operation. So we've improved our pre and post-trip inspections. We've improved our adherence to the preventive maintenance schedule that our mechanics provide for us. In doing so, we did see a slight uptick in the availability of trucks for a time. However, I can note that that has since regressed. We'll get into a little bit of those details in a bit. But in facilities maintenance, we've got improved administrative actions that increase responsiveness. This is about getting the right materials in the hands of our workforce in a timely fashion. And then we've done a significant amount of work within Cartograph to improve our scheduling and communication with our requesters. So those are just some of the highlights of 2024. I wanted to take a pause and first welcome Council Members Gross and Mosley. Thank you for coming. And just didn't know if you had any questions on the past work of our 2024 before we get into kind of some of our proposals for 2025.
Okay, I also want to mention that Councilman Sharland has joined us online. For questions, I guess we'll start with you, Councilman Mosley.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Harnstein and Deputy Director Crane and the rest of the senior staff at the Department of Public Works for joining us today. I just had a couple questions, particularly around street sweeping. I think that's the primary constituent concern that my office receives. But putting that aside, for a second, I have nothing but kudos for the staff at the 2nd Division. They do just a wonderful job. We're in touch with them multiple times a week, and they're always Johnny on the spot. We've got nothing but rave reviews from our constituents when they call and need things from 2nd Division. But the one area, I know it's been primarily around, the shortage of vehicles, across, all of the divisions. Besides investing in the smaller vehicles to deal with the more denser parts, of the city, are there any other steps being taken over the winter, being that right now street sweeping isn't occurring? This is the snow removal season to prepare for the spring, so that we can have more consistent street sweeping coverage when we get into next year.
I think, from that perspective, it's difficult for us to increase the maintenance activity for the street sweepers when we're in the midst of snow season. We need to make sure that all of our maintenance resources as it relates to equipment and vehicles is dedicated to supporting the snow activity. That has to do with the availability of equipment. The same folks that maintain our street sweepers are also the same folks that maintain the snow fighting equipment. So the things like the plows, the spreaders, conveyors, it's those same individuals. So if we have a lull in snow, which would be welcome, but we don't expect, certainly they'll pivot accordingly, but it's not something that we necessarily count on. I didn't know, Bill, I wanted to ask you, I know you're closer to the street sweeping work than I am, but just can you give us an overview of just the condition of the the vehicles that we do have.
Well, I'm sorry, thank you. Yes, the fleet is aging. Some of those sweepers are 15 years old and more. The average life or the useful life of a street sweeper is 5 to 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And after that, it should be turned over and, live out its life in Unity Township or somewhere like that. But, we hold on to these things a little too long. And we start to throw good money after bad.
Okay.
I believe one is, let me see here. We have 2 that are 2010s and 2 that are 2014. So that's we kind of hold on to them a little longer. Personally, I'd like to see us enter into a lease agreement and start leasing these pieces of equipment and turn them over in a timely fashion. If you would consider that.
And how many total street sweeping vehicles are there citywide?
There are
within-
12.
12.
And this new one coming on board, we should take delivery on soon, which could address the bike lanes and smaller alleys, like the director said.
And would that be deployed citywide?
Yes.
The smaller one.
Yes, it would.
Okay. And I think it begs the question. We know we have 2 lean years coming up, where as the budget director has raised the flag of not investing in vehicles. How much of a negative impact is that potentially going to have over the next 2 years, where we're not going to be able to do the kind of investment in vehicles, including the vehicles that you use for the important work that you do? How is that going to impact your ability around snow removal, street sweeping, and what flags are you raising internally around that hard decision we have to make?
Well, I think whatever monies are available, I think we'll use it for parts to maintain the fleet that we have. We continue to make gold from straw every day, and our people are working with the tools that we have, and trying to do the best we can.
And that's why we have the increased focus on vehicle maintenance. We realize, it's critical to our operation. Everything that we can do internally, from the workforce up to the leadership, to both, turn over the couch cushions, if you will, to see what we can do, but also, do our very best to keep those vehicles and equipment operational as best we can. I note that in other parts of the department, environmental services notably, we started the year consistently down 2 to 6 garbage trucks every single day. With our work with fleet, we were able to improve that for a spell, but we are back again to losing or starting the day without 2 to 6 garbage trucks every single day. I'll note with garbage trucks that every single incident where we started where a truck is not available, it costs the city $5,000 in overtime, increased risk to injury, increased litter. So $5,000 in direct and indirect costs to the city for every single time that we have a garbage each day. So it's a significant. Admittedly, that is I will admit that's a back of the napkin out calculation, but it's a significant cost to residents every single day that we do not have those resources available to us, because we're either forced to delay the provision of service, or just outright not provide it, or work overtime to in the case of collecting refuse or recycling daily, work overtime to get the stuff off the street and provide that service for our residents.
And two quick questions. How many total refuse vehicles are in the fleet?
Including spares, it's roughly 63. I will note that we are still awaiting delivery on the 8 electric recycling trucks that were ordered several years ago.
Wow.
They've been delayed in delivery. It's having a huge impact on us. The ELA is the Equipment Leasing Authority is well aware and is taking appropriate steps to address that. But that, in the meantime, we've been forced to lease a vehicle to support our environmental services operations with emergency funds, just to make sure that we can get the garbage picked up every day.
And is the age of the refuse vehicle fleet in the same situation, as the street sweeping vehicles,
Yes.
where they're basically beyond?
They're beyond their useful life.
And what is the average lifespan of a refuse vehicle?
The standard average life is about 10 years.
Okay.
So again, we would prefer that we turn those over in the 7 to 10-year cycle. We have a lot of vehicles that are going to be 12, 15, 17 years.
Wow.
In some few instances. A lot of those are on the recycling time. There was a large purchase from several years back on the EVs that was a grant that we received from the state. We're waiting on the manufacturer at this point.
Right. And those delays on those, you said 6 or 8 recycling vehicles?
Yeah, eight recycling vehicles.
Is that kind of just like the post-pandemic lag with?
I can't really speak to that at the
Okay.
table at the moment. I'm happy to brief you on that situation
Absolutely.
in executive session. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I think that exhausts my questions for now, Madam Chair.
And just as a reminder, so that the director still has more
Yeah, yeah.
presentation, so I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that was clear. Okay.
Yeah, that-
So if you want to go
Thanks
ahead
for that
now.
reminder as well.
No, not at all.
I
I
kind of
just
got
wanted
down the
to.
rabbit hole.
So, Councilwoman Gross, did you want to?
I'll just go down a couple inches further down that same rabbit hole, and then we'll let the rest of the topics, 'cause there are a lot of good topics to get to, I know. But, so yeah, I wanted to say the same thing, like, thank you for kind of responding, and thank you for acknowledging in your presentation that street sweeping has been an issue. You've gotten calls from my office as well. We've gotten people who are like, you literally send people out with rakes, where there were a couple of places where it's like when it's piled as high, because we have some 100-year-old plus street trees, and so when it's so big it's like damming the street. There were, I appreciate, and I'm sure it was not a pleasant task for people to come out with rakes when they really should be in a vehicle that can do this 10 times faster. So I am interested in kind of getting back to that conversation, pursuing it either online here or offline, and also I think I heard in the conversation something that I've brought up maybe 2 or 3 budget hearings in a row. I think I had an amendment a few years ago to have one of those small bike lane or city sidewalk sized vehicles. So if you want to just give me a little bit more of that, because I can't wait to hear it. What is that? What kind of vehicle is that? I remember I literally was texting photos to the director of like, look at the one West Penn Hospital has, and can you like put a bunch of things on the front? And
Yes, we'll take a snow plow on it also, and it's a vacuum sweeper, and
Okay.
it can fit in the bike lanes and adjust the brooms for a different swath.
it takes a long time sometimes. I can't
wheels
wait
turn.
to see that one in action.
Slowly,
Can I
but-
come out when you're like driving it or something? I don't
Absolutely,
think I don't know if 2 people
You
fit
cut
if
the
I can
ribbon.
guest ride with it. Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited about that. We had some bike lanes that are we own, not in the regular right of way, but even especially like on bridges that we own where there's ice, and certainly lots of bike lanes that weren't being cleared. So, and again, we're fortunate in the district to have a lot of places that have a lot of trees. So being able to clear those is going to be great. So, all right, I won't take any more time. I definitely have some other questions for when we get through the whole presentation.
I also wanted to mention that we're joined by Councilwoman Strasburger, and then Councilman Charlin, you're online. Did you want to ask some questions now, or wait until the end of the presentation, whichever you prefer?
Yeah, no, I can hold off till the director's finished.
Okay, sounds good. Councilwoman Strasburger? Good, okay. Yeah. go
Okay.
ahead.
So going onward to 2025, this is a picture of Homewood Park under construction. So I think we are all very excited by that. I certainly am excited. This has been a labor of love for a lot of years. I think, Assistant Director Gall and his Andrea Ketzel and their unbelievable work in helping deliver this awesome improvement for this community. That's a very exciting project. For recycling, I think we have some exciting things here. So the additional co-drivers 3, drivers 2, we are going to attempt a weekly recycling in Oakland. Why Oakland? As a pilot, this is the place where we get the greatest number of complaints as it relates to early set out and missed collection. This is the largest volume by neighborhood of recycling collection in the city. The one additional route does not require us to purchase an extra truck. It just requires some additional personnel. Standing up the additional route is going to be, the earliest would be March or April, but it's going to be pending the availability of existing trucks. So I just want to caution everybody of that. But we are excited by that. to try weekly recycling in a neighborhood in the city. I think it's something that we've all been trying to work for a long time. So I think that's a great step. We're also, through, again, turning over couch cushions and finding grant funds available to us. We're going to be able to do a direct marketing campaign to residents in the city to increase recycling activity. So that's kind of an exciting thing. This is, outside of our normal annual flyer, if you will, that all residents receive. But so this will be an additional marketing campaign to reach folks and to, explain the benefits of recycling and how they can, help keep the city cleaner. On the cleanliness and snow aspect, you'll note that we've asked for an additional 8 anti-litter inspectors. So what this allows us to do is for a more neighborhood-based approach. So 1 to 2 inspectors per magisterial district. This gives those folks the opportunity to really get to know their neighborhood. This is critical for us to implement quality of life ticketing and take over enforcement of weeds and debris from PLI. And it also allows us more resources for, again, diversion, assistance to residents, resolution of some of these litter issues. As we like to say, this is, some of the littering activity, this is a behavioral concern, right? So we kind of approach it from that perspective. This is not to bring down the law on littering, but rather, the ways in which we can work with residents to provide them resources and help to reduce littering everywhere in the city. On the topic of snow, first I just got to say thank you to all our divisions, drivers, laborers, everybody that was out overnight addressing last night's event. Was unbelievable. Their response, I think, was very proud of their ability to show up quickly and deal with a thunder snow, as it is, a thunderstorm and a snowstorm at the same time. We don't get too many thunder snows, but they're always exciting if you get the chance to hear one. So from a labor perspective, we feel like we're really well positioned. But again, as we mentioned, trucks for snow and ice removal continue to be a challenge. As of yesterday, we had 78% of our trucks in our fleet available for snow and ice removal. As a benchmark, I would expect that number to be more like 84, 85%. And also, I think it's important to note that we expect that number to go down as the season continues. Snow and ice can be intensive. It can cause a lot of wear and tear on the trucks. Our trucks are older. So I think it's important to note those two factors. So we expect the availability of trucks for us to go down as the season continues. We will deal with that as best we can. I will note that this does not include the delivery of 9 leased vehicles that we did for snow to support our operations. But those vehicles have arrived and most are in service. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So again, thank you to all of our folks that came up and showed up last night for what turned out to be a very tricky event. Continuing on, the topic of cleanliness and snow. So for recycling and yard waste drop-off locations, so we've added some additional lot coordinators into our budget. This is going to allow us to increase our drop-off time convenience for residents. So no longer will it be just when a division's open, but we'll be able to have that staffed at a time that's more convenient for folks. This will also allow for us to reduce illegal dumping at city-operated drop-offs, which has been a topic of concern and has forced us to close a location because of the illegal dumping. And so also, this relates to the multi-year program that is to redevelop our divisional sites. This is per the requirements of the consent order agreement that we have with the Department of Environmental Protection. So those things are working together to make our locations cleaner, but also ultimately end up making our neighborhoods cleaner. And I think what we'll find is that we'll actually free up some resources for some other activities that will be of benefit to residents. Discuss on the topic of facilities, so expected upcoming capital projects. I mentioned Homewood Park, but we also got the 4th Division. You'll see here pictures of Oliver Bathhouse, Medic 4, Also, Phillips Recreation Center is getting a new HVAC system and ADA restrooms. So that's just a kind of a snippet of kind of larger capital projects that we expect to be completed in 2025. For facilities sustainment, I note some personnel changes. We've added 2 construction foremen. This will help us unlock additional services of our construction division, so more active crews elsewhere. We're adding an operational performance analyst. This is to help accelerate our work within Cartograph. And we've also added a plumbing maintenance foreman and a building maintenance foreman to kind of increase building maintenance responsiveness. But I can't be remiss without noting the $5.2 million decrease in non-personnel expenditures in the Bureau of Facilities. So, Assistant Director Gall, if you kind of expand upon, what that impact will mean for the city.
Yes, thank you, Director. So, as mentioned earlier, the roof replacements and HVAC system replacements were paid for by the additional monies that we had received from ARPA and that were in our 2024 budget. So, looking at how far those dollars go, we were able to do 6 roof replacements in a year and 5 major system replacements. That is about the rate that we would need to invest in roof replacements and major boiler and RTU replacements to keep pace with the expected life cycle of those systems. Without that money, we'll be forced into some really difficult decisions on what roofs and what major systems to replace. Obviously, those that are greatest risks to life, health, and safety and the overall asset are going to take priority. But without that money in our budget, any investments in those sustainments will come at some trade-off to other maintenance and construction activities. So looking ahead to the next budget cycle, we will certainly formulate another request to get that program back on track.
And whether that's, via capital request or additional operating dollars or whatever the case might be, I think, this is the beginning of a deferred maintenance period for the city. I think as these, asset planning for facilities would include, as Chip mentioned, regular life cycle replacements. So we're replacing our roofs, our boilers, our chillers at the end of their life cycle. This will curtail our ability to do so. So we're going to enter a period of deferred maintenance. Now, can we survive that period of deferred maintenance? Sure, we could survive that for a couple of years if need be. But eventually the bill will come due in terms of investment that we have to make or in, protecting the life, health, safety of the public and employee occupants of facilities. So, and just wrapping up, so on learning and stability, some of the things moving forward, for safety, we are, wholeheartedly appreciative of the real-time safety system to help us learn about our work, learn about the challenges that our workers face every single day. From this, we support the request of HR for a social worker. Some of our employees have some really incredibly complex issues that they have to deal with. Things that are outside of the skill set of anybody here at this table, and indeed, in HR and the services that the city themselves provide, which are actually fantastic. But there are just some cases where it's beyond even the city's ability to compassionately care. So we see this as another way that we can care not only for workers in public works, but also in other departments as well, that they might have the special need of services not provided by the city. And so we're really supportive of that. For management, we're going to continue to expand our development program through knowledge share activities, through going to observe, through learning. So on vehicle maintenance, in addition to all the things that we will continue to do, we're going to make a wholehearted effort to focus on improving vehicle cleanliness. We see this as another way that we can extend the life of our vehicles as best we can. For facilities maintenance, you'll see, again, via the operational performance analyst, we're going to accelerate our use of Cartograph as a tool to improve our delivery of the maintenance activity. And administration, we're going to further support career development pathways for our DPW employees. So, hopefully next year, this time, we'll have some exciting things to speak about on that front. We are going to have a focus on revenue, on our revenue generating activities, what we can do in a variety of different aspects. We are going paperless. So we are a large department that generates a lot of paper. I prefer our forestry department not be the source of our paper. But I'm really excited about that. I think all of us are. And this will also increase our data sharing capabilities with various city partners. And with that, I just want to thank you all for your time. Open it up to other questions, concerns.
Great. So you're good for now, Councilwoman Gross?
Thank you. All right, so a couple other topics that I am interested in was a little bit more about I kind of trying to get all of the projects around. There's two kind of things that stuck with me on the recycling. One was the extra weekly pickup, kind of like trial in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's things that have changed, expanded hours for like yard waste drop off, but that loss of one facility. Can you just say a little bit more? Maybe let's start with the yard waste part. I think my constituents are really keen on recycling yard waste. So they, I have to give a shout out. It was a Girl Scout troop that did the very first Christmas tree drop off. And that pickup, I had to call DPW and was like, please, 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 if there's this independent project, will you come to the Friendship Parklet and pick up these Christmas trees if people in the neighborhood come and pile them up there? And now that's expanded into a really fantastic city program. And then I have literally for more than 10 years had constituents make really smart recommendations about reducing the fees for some yard waste drop-off, increasing the days for maybe curbside pickup of yard waste, and just a whole bunch of things. So tell me kind of like where you're at and what, would help you do more.
Yeah, I think, we've done a lot there, and I thank you for those comments and questions. I think we've done a lot. I believe this year was the first year where we actually were scheduling curbside pickup. So we piloted that this fall.
That's big.
Which is really fantastic, and it had good success. I think that we learned a lot from that experience and learned different ways in which we can improve it.
And by scheduling, do you mean like, hi, will you come to my house?
Yes.
So it's like a curbside, customized curbside.
Yes. Yeah, and we try to line folks up. So we experimented with that. I think we had some good success there. But really, I think what we were seeing at our drop-off locations was, unfortunately, for residents to come drop off yard waste, some people were abusing that. It was noted in the DEP's inspection that, they would see yard waste drop off come with a lot of illegal dumping, so materials that were not yard waste, suffice to say. The location in the Beltshoover neighborhood at McKinley Park, which was a recycling drop off, had to be closed because it was unmanned, and so therefore it was just the site of a lot of illegal dumping. And it was a point of constant concern of neighborhood. We received a lot of concern from the neighborhood on that. So part of this program, which is a multi-year program to be clear, is to expand that, return that to those residents where it's not there, but also expand the hours of operation by having a dedicated person whose sole responsibility is to, receive that recycling and or yard waste, inspect. It both certifies that, our yard waste is clean, and so therefore more valuable, and therefore not illegally dumping, but also it makes it more convenient. It allows us to expand the hours of operation. They're outside of our normal divisional, please come to division when it's open. Our normal division hours are 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. which really isn't super convenient for, I think, most residents. So this would be a way that we can expand that, perhaps to some weekend days, perhaps a little bit later in the evening for when folks are off work. Just to try to make it a little bit more convenient for folks to utilize those resources.
And those are the 2 lock coordinators.
That's correct.
And so they'd be like at the only, like each one would have like a site.
Yes.
That's their only job. I'm going to be at this site.
And that is intentional. The 2 is intentional. I mean, I think eventually we'd like to grow that to 5 or 6, or 1 per site, if you will. That is a drop off. But right now, where we are with the consent order is that we think that we would have 2 viable locations that would both comply with the consent order and allow us to manage that program in 2025.
Whose desk does the compliance sit on for the consent order? Is it only yours?
It's on my desk, yes.
But
I coordinate with city planning on that, because some of our consent orders we found, some of our consent order also relates to MS4 compliance.
Sure.
And so, I think city planning has been a wonderful partner in sharing information and resources to, help us be very coordinated and speaking with one voice to the Department of Environmental Protection.
All right. So you do kind of get partnership with city planning. And who in city planning? Is it Floor?
It's Kyla Pendergrass, who's just been fantastic to work with.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, so there's that. So I'm trying to kind of see, because you have some significant kind of shifting, right? It's not like a significant change in your budget, but there's some significant shifting. And so I could see how it touches like this page, but I don't understand. I don't follow, like the loss of 3 tree pruners is not something I saw coming. Like, do we need less tree pruning?
Marcel, do you want to expand on that?
We actually just have had a hard time finding tree pruners. So what we've been able to do is just replace it with laborers. And a
Okay.
lot of times that helps with the crew just to, shovel tree limbs into a shredder and, just help with the crew flagging. We figured that there is a lot more labor work than actual tree work.
Got it.
So
Yeah, it's a different
that's the
skill set.
idea.
Yeah, you don't need that.
And I think it also exposes our employees to the opportunity, like the development, if they want to pursue tree pruning as a place of advancement. I think the best way to do that is to actually put them on a crew with tree pruners and see the work, become emotionally invested in that.
Some trees are different than others, right?
Yeah,
Some
so-
trees, this one kind of thing, it's not just hacking at them.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, good. No, that's just, I can make sense of that now. I'm not probably going to follow along. You probably don't need to tell me the detail on like tractor operators but I do see there's some shifting around with laborers too, but I assume that I see some are just moved funding wise, right? Like moved into the RAD trust fund or something like that. So I can understand that part. I'm glad to hear that you're doing the expanded week in Oakland, but maybe I'll let the council member who represents Oakland, who probably knows more about it than me already, speak to that. I want to jump back to the parks part a little bit, and because I see a kind of list of facilities, and West Penn Rec Center isn't jumping out at me, but that's on the list for 2025, and I can't not ask about it.
In terms of the capital improvement, that is underway now. That's an active construction. So that includes exterior masonry, like repointing the brickwork, as well as the major RTU replacement, and all the associated ductwork and electrical as well. So yeah, it's a major project. It's one of the last ones that was an ARPA-funded project, but that's has begun. Just begun, I believe. It would have been about a month ago.
Great. And so we're not going to see the leaking into the kind of bathrooms and the.
So the roof.
Senior
So
center
it does not
area.
include. This does not include a roof replacement, although it is. I spoke to sustainment program and the funding that we need to keep at the proper pace. West Penn is up there in the queue of needs for sure. But for now, until we can find money either through operating or capital sources, it'll unfortunately be Band-Aids and repairs to address leaks as they come up.
All right. Well, that's at least we know that it's on your radar, and that there has been some repair, which has been long overdue. So we would like to see things get started. And I also want to say thanks to my colleagues and to DPW, because we've started a budget line to build up some funds for the Sheila Rec Center, the Bloomfield Rec Center as well. Because again, as I just want to say, I appreciate the director saying, we can't lose this building. Because if we lose the building, we lose the pool. And we know we can't lose the Bloomfield pool. So thank you for getting it reopened also this last year for this last season. And it was much enjoyed. And we look forward to kind of figuring out what we can do with that rec center building as well. But I'll leave it there because I know we've got some lots of topics, but I'll let everyone have their turn. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Councilman Sharland?
If you could skip me if someone else is ready.
Sure. Councilwoman?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you all for your presentation. I was sorry I missed a portion of your presentation, but it's that time of year. So first, I want to congratulate you on a number of things. The work that you've done to decrease injuries, to lower the injuries rate is huge. I know that you've gone through some training to create other efficiencies within the department, and even as you present your presentation, the what is it? I forget the category that you called it, learning and stability. Seems like it might be an offshoot of that or a lesson from that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all that you've done to, think about challenging issues like the jail trail, like other, types of categories of issues you might not have had to deal with in the way that you had in the past, and you've kind of been thinking outside the box and creatively tackling them. And getting our bathrooms open in more parks. I know that's something that I was crowing about a couple years ago, and it was a pilot for a while, and now it's well on its way to kind of more just restrooms available for more people in all over the city, not just in the central business district. So congrats there. But on that topic, maybe Chip, it's your bailiwick. Sorry, I just have my notes on my phone, so I want to make sure it's in front of me. Or Director Hornstein, we have a couple of new plumber positions available. I know that some of the work that was challenging for ensuring that our drinking fountains are on time had to do with not just personnel, mostly personnel, but also ensuring that it was all in our system and cartograph. Is that right?
Yes.
And we're doing the work. So is there a plan also for over the winter to ensure that more and more of the guidelines or the guides for how to tackle each and every drinking water fountain is in there in time for, say, the new people who hopefully are hired to know exactly, to be able to hit the ground running? And then the second part of that question is, do we think we can find people to fill these positions?
So I have wonderful news to report on that front. So we have Keith, who everyone at this point knows, and
we love Keith.
Still
Thank
going
you, Keith.
strong.
I just want to shout out Keith because I don't think he gets enough support. So thank you, Keith.
Can't give him enough shout out. He is now in an acting foreman role because we have a crew. So we have made 2 new hires that have started. One is 3 months in, and the other is a little over a month in. Actually, yesterday was 1 month. And we also have an apprentice who is going to start taking plumbing courses towards a journeyman certificate. So that's a 4-year process. The city will reimburse those expenses. So it's a great program. Director Hornstein alluded earlier to our efforts to develop internal pathways for people to come in an entry-level position, learn on the job, and develop a skilled trade. So we have 3 staff in addition to Keith now. So it's gone from a one-man shop to a real bona fide plumbing shop. So that's very exciting. In the course of the shutdowns, to answer your questions about water fountains, it's every, about, late fall, early winter every year, we go through a series of shutoffs to winterize the buildings, make sure pipes don't freeze and burst. So in the course of doing that, we documented the condition of all of the water fountains, as well as the other assets like concession stands, that needed to be winterized. So we have, and I'm happy to review the details of this. I think Scott had mentioned setting up a meeting in January, so we can go through the details of basically what the condition assessment is. But we have documented, to your question, we have documented all of the fountains. We have updated information, not just on the condition of each fountain, but also the nuanced information of where the curb boxes are, any other procedures that are not standard that are required to turning them on. So it's not just Keith's institutional knowledge. So happy to go over the details with you. There are a number, I think that the other thing I'll note here is there are a number of water fountains that are in our system that have been in disrepair and disuse, literally possibly for decades. And so the question with some of those is, do we decommission, or is it worth investing in installing a new fountain? But we do also, so those will be case by case. But I guess the last thing I'll add is that we do have a contract for, we have a vendor that went through a competitive process, who can meet our spec for new water fountains if and when we need to do replacements. So feel confident about that shop and the progress we've made and looking ahead to next year.
It's great news. Thank you for that. And I'll look forward to our conversation in January, and any other council members who want to be part of that conversation are welcome as well. I wanted to ask about a little bit more about the pilot and the recycling pilot in Oakland. And, it's interesting. There are certainly a lot of concerns and complaints about early set out, late pickup, or late sort of, removal of the cans and storage again, other litter complaints. It's interesting that I don't hear a lot of requests from Oakland for weekly recycling as much as I hear from the other neighborhoods I represent. Maybe in Councilperson Charlin's district or Councilman Lavelle's district they do, but can you help relate for me the this is the challenge we're hearing, so this is the answer there, versus another answer which might be another solution which might be quality of life ticketing or more enforcement or more anti-litter inspectors, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there specifically in Oakland, having walked it myself now several times, and having deployed several different what I'll call countermeasures in the neighborhood with regards to restricting on-street parking so that our folks have access to the curb and access to the materials themselves. I mean, the practical matter of Oakland is, for I think reasons we can all understand, that just generate more recycling waste than other neighborhoods, period. And while we value our partnerships with the universities to support the student residents that live there, and they've been great partners for us to work with, the practical matter is that they just generate far and away the most recycling in the city that we're struggling to collect. And that's just the practical aspect of it. And that's not to discount like the requests of other residents elsewhere. It's just where we see the greatest need, where we see the need of the impact of leaving the materials on the curb, for folks that is a highly pedestrian active neighborhood, to what that means for folks. So, that's how we kind of zeroed in on that pilot as both greatest impact in a place where we actually sorely needed it. And what we hope we do is, since it's the most, what our if you will, our hypothesis is that since it already generates the most recycling, we believe that providing the weekly recycling will actually allow us to divert even more waste.
So it's a pilot. So what we're hoping to learn
Yeah.
from it. What will the assessment look like? And then I guess the second part of my question is, I know that the challenge that, when we brought this up before, when we've gotten requests, weekly recycling, other cities have it. It's been a personnel challenge, and to just be frank, like a labor union agreement challenge, maybe. So I didn't know if that was something that factored in here. But the first part of the question is, what does the assessment look like?
I mean, I think the assessment looks like, from the time we put it in until, for a year, we'll evaluate how much recycling we collect. We'll evaluate, the number of complaints that are generated in the neighborhood or the reduction thereof. So I think that's what the assessment looks like. And we'll see, we'll see what the value of that impact is. We'll want to see I think we'll also want to compare that against the value of our marketing campaign broadly to other residents to see if that also increases, recycling throughout the city. So we've got a couple of different impacts there. I think the third thing I'll note is that it's not just a labor challenge, it's also an equipment challenge. To bring weekly recycling to every resident is just going to require more trucks. And, as I kind of previously stated, we can't put on the street the number of trucks that we need to provide the services that we are now. So, we're crossing our fingers on getting the electric vehicles in, but we're going to need more. We would need more recycling trucks to support that activity citywide, or even to expand it to an additional neighborhood.
So is there a budgetary impact to the Oakland pilot, Oakland pilot?
The budgetary impact is the 2 additional drivers, and we
Okay.
believe if that, we have our resources available to us every day, like we believe we should, that we can deliver that weekly recycling to folks with just the additional co-drivers and driver. It's not necessarily like a one-to-one, but that allows us to, plan for those resources and make sure that the activity is done safely.
Right. And my last question is about sort of creating, and please tell me if this exists already, but creating multi-departmental teams. Don't know what else to compare it to. Maybe there's some of that happening on the Liza Furnace Trail or other places, but when it comes to, say, a corridor, that might be a challenging corridor. It might have not exactly like easily identifiable parcels or ownership. It might be a parking lot and then a parcel and then like a hillside and then this, and there's weeds and there's debris and there's sidewalk blockage and there's this and that happening where it just isn't as neat as saying, I want a 311 this house for a problem. It takes like a whole multi-departmental effort to tackle it. Is there currently a mechanism, or with some of the newer staff that you have, a way to pull together for discrete periods of time for like a walkthrough, whether it's at the council person's request or it's been identified and we kind of have known areas to do that sort of, okay, we're all going to go on site, we're all going to identify what the problem is, whose responsibility it is, we're going to have some help figuring out who owns a parcel, but we're going to take care of these items, et cetera, et cetera. Does that exist, or could it exist, I guess, in the future?
Yeah, I think absolutely within our kind of, our management development program framework, it certainly can exist. The examples I'll give to that are, we did a walkthrough on an observation on vacant property cleanup in the Beltshoover neighborhood. I think, Councilman Charlin was a guest. Greatly appreciate him, seeing that activity and what's needed to do that. I've performed that walkthrough myself, on the jail trail, because of, council requests and the concern over the condition of that corridor. And I think there was a lot of learning there and a provision of resources, and also, learning from staff in terms of what they were experiencing there as well, and what they were seeing. So yeah, I think within our current learning framework, it would be definitely, we would be able to have those opportunities.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Just thanks for the work that you and your team do every day. I know it's a lot and with fewer resources than you'd like. So, but thank you, Madam Chair. Those are all my questions.
Great, thanks. Councilman Charlin? You might be on mute, Councilman. Well, why don't I jump in and then Oh, is he back on? No. Okay, okay. Yeah, we'll come back. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So, as the chair, obviously we talk regularly, but, I still just, so as far as the 2024 accomplishments, obviously very exciting with the 412 Boulevard of the Alleys. Congratulations. I know it was a long time coming. And also the ice rink chiller. I know at the sort of ribbon cutting for that, I think it's really important to note that, what was it? How?
It's 50 degrees out, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, but I know that's not what I meant. I meant like the chiller itself. Like it was very, it was just like, it's very old. This is like infrastructure that has just been, sort of deteriorating for many, many years. And so the job was much bigger. And so to have a new one is a big deal.
I think I'm not going to say that those are original to the ice rink itself, but they certainly were well past their useful life, at least 10 to 12 years past their useful life. And the thing I'll point out too is that also because of its condition, it gave us the opportunity to reimagine how that was provided. And so, we had consulted with the Pittsburgh Penguins on the various methods that we could, replace this, but also expand, ice skating opportunities. And that's how we got ice on the ice rink when it was 50 degrees, which would have never happened in the past.
Right.
We would never be able to have, a skating event with that warm of temperatures, which is super, I think it's super cool just in and of itself.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
No, it's great. So that's, not only is it fixed, but it's better than better than we had before. So that's exciting. I noticed that you called out, I wanted to say just a quick shout out to Andrea Ketzel, who does an amazing job with playgrounds. She's wonderful. And I noticed in your presentation, you called out Anderson Playground, but I've seen a lot of other playgrounds. I don't know if this this year, last year, but do you have an idea of how many playground whether it's rehabilitations or new that have been done citywide?
I don't have a precise number for you. I can tell you that I was recently looking at just workloads amongst our project managers and did note that Andrea takes the cake in terms of just what she takes on board. Literally dozens of projects at a time.
Yeah.
She and her staff, Kara Smith and Grisel Espinosa as well. They do an outstanding job. I don't have a number for you for exactly how many, but it's like I said, there are dozens of projects at any given time that are actively being managed, either in design or construction.
Yeah, I do. Maybe I notice it more as a parent, but it just feels like every few months it's like, oh, here's another playground. So that's really it's amazing. I find that to be one of the huge benefits of Pittsburgh. You compare, so like growing up in LA or being in New York and these big cities, like to have in this mid-sized city like so much stuff for your kids to do, just free kid spaces to play. I know we have good museums and stuff in the winter and whatever, but between ice rinks and the playgrounds in the summer, it's really fantastic. It's in terms of quality of life in Pittsburgh, it's huge. As a parent, I can say that. And then I also so rec center improvements. I know, I don't know if I know that, there were like a new floor in McGee. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to call out. I know there's like HVAC stuff that was done, but other things if you wanted to.
Looking back. Shenley Rink was the big one that we got in that group for this year. West Penn we spoke about is coming up. Phillips will be big. Warrington is in design development right now. We expect that design to complete in 2025. So we'll be going to bid for that. That's a major project, really everything short of a complete gut and rebuild, but it's a major interior renovation project as well as a lot of site work. Those I think are the highlights, but there's a lot of work West End has been a long time coming, but that's nearly complete as well. Flooring is, as we speak, is being installed. So that space will be activated again. And really it goes rec and senior, but all of our project management groups take on a lot of work, and they get after it every season and every day. So again, we'll take the moment just to shout out to the whole staff for their efforts.
Yeah, and Bergwin too. I know we're excited.
Bergwin's
about
another one,
Bergwin.
yeah.
And you also work very well, I think, with the city parks teams, just in finding. I mean, I know at McGee, like it's small, but boy, you figure out ways to like create space and storage, and really maximize the the space that we have. So that's great. So yeah, that's exciting. The 300% increase in property cleanups. That's of course, great. And I do appreciate all the work, with the support for our unhoused folks. I know it's been a challenge, but at Eliza Furnace, getting those porta potties and dumpsters and all that kind of the work with CEO Works, and also Bridge to the Mountain. So I really appreciate that. So I did want to sort of just some questions, and also like maybe concerns, just kind of looking forward. So with the water fountains, just so for folks to know, so it's the blue ones, right? Are those the new ones? Are those the ones that are versus sort of like old concrete ones? So if they're seeing a water fountain and they're like, is this gonna get turned on or not get turned on?
Yeah, so the blue ones, I mean, there have been waves and generations of these things. We actually, I believe, have a color option for the contract that we have. I think it comes in either the new ones moving forward will, I think, either be silver or green.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a wave of more recent installations that were blue. So if you see blue, it's and it's not on, it's probably a repair, not a replacement that's needed. Okay. So something that when we meet with Councilwoman Strasburg's office and anyone else that would like to join, we can go into those details. But basically, when we shut off the fountains this year, we put them into categories whether they were in good operation, in good standing, need of repairs but not replacement, or possibly in need of just being decommissioned. Okay. So we can go through the breakdown of those.
Yeah, because we were looking at Davis, and I was talking with a constituent, and she was like, "Is this one?" It was just this old concrete sort of. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know. That one doesn't feel like a.
Well, and some of those, anytime that we have, even if it's just a water fountain, if it's got beautiful stonework and we want to try to preserve it and just make a repair, we'll certainly do that if possible. But more often than not, if it's been in disuse for a while, we need to replace not just the fixture that you see, but the underlying components as well.
Great. And then with regard to the public restrooms in the parks, that it is great to see the ones that have opened up. I did want to ask about porta potties, because I know we had a little bit of trouble with one of the porta potty contractors, and now we have a new one. So just for the public, I know bathrooms are closed in the winter, but can we have porta potties, or what do we do with that? Because I know sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So
yeah, so we generally provision porta potties based on the activity. So a place like the Shenley Oval that remains pretty active in the winter, we'll have porta potties there. The Riverview soccer field, same thing, remains pretty active over the winter, so we'll provision those there. The others we take as a case-by-case basis. Sometimes folks ask us for them. We might provision them during the season when we rent shelters, because we know a shelter is highly rented, but we don't rent those out in the winter. And so, we take those off. We also, we will provision them at known locations. So if there's, certainly a concern or a request, we're always willing to listen and see how that lines up to the activity. I know that, there are other locations in the city where, just because it's winter doesn't mean we're not active in our parks. So we take those into account as well. But it is very much kind of like an at request that we need to vet.
Okay, but there isn't like a temperature thing?
No,
where you can't have it,
no,
right?
there's not
It's
a,
just
there's
sort
not
of a usage. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
might be a comfort thing for the users
Sure.
themselves. But.
And then with regard, sort of looking forward at the anti-litter ticketing, I'm curious because I know this is something we've talked about a lot, but sort of the doing it proactively rather than reactively. And I was wondering if there have been any conversations yet with the 311 team and about sort of the protocol with that, so that these new inspectors, again, I say it again, like I'd hate to have it be just chasing 311s because I know.
No, in fact,
Yeah.
I think the first step in that process is we need to change our, once we become fully staffed, we'll need to update our standard operating procedure. The expectation is that we will do what we call more pickups, which is kind of more proactive engagement with folks on issues observed, and that 311 will be used less as the activation for creating a case, but more as like the benchmark for identifying areas of concern. Or maybe we need to expend a little bit more resources to just take a look at the street and the neighborhood and see what's needed. So the first step is getting fully staffed, and the second step is updating that standard operating procedure, and then from there we would then consult with our partners in 311 to see when how we can communicate to the public on when they could see a resolution to their concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, I would think it's helpful if 311's able to say like, thanks for your call.
How this
This is
works.
how this works,
Yeah.
but we'll note it for the record and data collection, whatever. So, but we're not necessarily going to be out there tomorrow cleaning up
Exactly.
the litter that's bothering you right now. Yeah. Okay, great. So I guess still just on the topic of litter, and I know that we talk about that a lot. Of course, like I would love to see a litter team, right? Or like a litter season. I've said that a lot, where it's like, weeds in the summer, snow in the winter, and then in that, when you just like, that's just like litter season where we go through and just hand pick. But I know that's not necessarily doable, at least not right now. Or it would take, maybe like down the road, with a larger staff perhaps. But just in terms of sort of with crews, just sort of dealing with litter as a matter of course, is there, and I think maybe the concept is already in place, but maybe it's just but it's like, if you're doing, if you're cutting down weeds and there's litter, like just to have a bag and pick it up. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing the hillside anyway and the weeds, like to be picking up the litter, or if you're in the park picking up the trash cans, to just do a walk around and pick up, the litter. And I know that's probably part of it, but just to ask if you have any thoughts on that. Maybe that's an education training.
That is part of the standard operating procedure to, if you're cutting weeds or cutting hillside, is
Or if
either
you're
break
mowing,
the-
like
or
not
you're
to mow
mowing, right,
over
it's
the
not
litter,
like a shredded
right.
napkin that's all over the place. But yeah, they're supposed to pick up litter, and then if they do come across something that's been underneath the overgrowth, then obviously rake that up when they're finished.
So is there a way that we can kind of reinforce that at the divisions, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. We can, make sure that's a point of emphasis for management. I think the other thing too, I'll point out, that relates to that topic is, we've actually worked with community organizations when we've seen a litter uptick, like for example in a public park. We've worked with, some of our athletic organizations where it's been noticed. Said, hey, can you help us address this problem with, your patrons? What have you. We've had a lot of success with that program as well to cut down on litter, because I think as we'd find, like, just because you find a piece of litter on the side of the street, that doesn't mean that it might have matriculated there from
Right.
who knows, from a storm or what have you. We don't really know. We care why it got there. We do,
Yeah.
but we also want to make sure that we're getting it up as soon as we can too.
Right. Yeah. So just kind of like there's, I don't know if it's like an all hands call or like a challenge with the workers, like bonuses. I mean, not, but or incentives for taking photograph of yourself with a bag of litter or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that would be great, because I know it's important to the residents. Then, so just with regard to the ongoing, just with homeless encampments, and I know I'm hoping very much that we are turning the corner, at least with the county, right, that in beds and sort of more availability. And I know that there's some piloting of like actual decommissioning, right, like on the north side, where then we're actually gonna be using public safety teams to actually be like, you can't, like you can't set back up here. But in the meantime, where we do have sort of these, I'll call them kind of established encampments like Eliza Furnace, or I would love to see the south side one sort of be the next, but for Eliza Furnace, which really is a space that it's not a park, it's not a, to establish maybe a process around cleanup, because I feel like we're not quite there yet with, oh, hey, Councilman. Yeah, Councilman Coghill's join us. I'm almost but to sort of establish maybe a protocol. So right now it's like, folks are coming, we have the social workers come through and try and talk to people and be like, Friday is cleanup day, don't forget, whatever, bag up your stuff. And that's working pretty well. But I still feel like there is, I would like to see a little bit more stringent protocol where we're saying, look, if your space is untidy, we are going to take it away. Like if it's, you see what I mean? Like if there's just a bunch of clothes around, we're going to take it away. So you need to keep it tight. Does that make sense? Is that something that?
I think we would consult. It does. It completely makes sense, and I can fully appreciate that. A couple of concerns that come to my mind is one, our employee safety. We're asking them to engage with our in-house residents. When the folks that do that engagement right now are, they really are highly, the folks from public safety and from our county partners that do that engagement work, they really are highly skilled and trained, because that also comes with the provision of other resources, right? Like other services that might be needed there. So I think that's concern. And then speaking on behalf of public safety and perhaps law, I think we get into some concerns over property ownership, First Amendment rights, that I think we want to be sensitive towards. But certainly, I think there can be the opportunity for like feedback amongst those parties about concerns. I mean, that's certainly some of the coordination that we do with public safety is Public Works bringing information and issues to the forefront about trail conditions. Where we think that additional resources are needed to support those residents. So whether that's just to help in tidying up their own encampment or, help in other resources, whatever they feel is necessary to bring to bear. But we certainly do that coordination already.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was just sort of thinking in terms of the postings, right? Because so on the north, it was posted and everybody knew like December 15th or whatever it was, but just for cleanup as opposed to decommission, sort of you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do raise those concerns for cleanup, right?
Yeah.
And we do make those requests for, services from public safety and from our county partners. And they do provide them. So, we try to work, hand in glove as much as we can.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll keep working together on that. And then just the last one, and this is sort of just sort of around, and I call it just like small tasks where it's not like it's not a regular thing that happens every day, but it's like but it's not a budget ask either. It's just like a small thing. Like I think of like the walkway and, you know, like, so is there a way that we can kind of streamline where it's like, it's something that's small, it doesn't need, but also just to kind of, and I'm sure, and sometimes they get done like that, right? Like I think of like, Parnell Street or whatever, but then
Yeah,
other times you know what I mean? So it's like, so maybe a little more consistency around those kind of small projects.
Yeah, no, I completely appreciate that. You know, because I've worked with all council persons on very similar little things where it's like, hey, can we get just a little bit of assistance here on just this one item? It doesn't neatly fit into like what we call our standard work procedure. I definitely would be very interested in that. You know, ways for you know, residents and council persons to request those services of us. Because I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of Bill or Chip or anyone, but I think our crews enjoy those little departures from the norm, if you will. Whether they're building, you know, a shed for community gardens, or you know, kind of trying to make a path beautiful and maybe a little bit safer for people walking on it, or you know, an out-of-the-box step repair, or, you know, tree planting that the councilman asked. There's a variety of things that we do that I quote are out of the box. It would be nice to figure out a way to streamline that.
Okay.
Definitely open to that conversation.
Okay, great. I don't think I have any other questions. Just thank you so much. I mean, the work is really incredible, and the list for 2025 is great too. You know, yeah, I'm excited for projects in my district and projects in other districts. So thank you for that. I guess, Councilman Charlin, are you back? Well, so Councilman Coghill, yeah, please. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. Told you get all dressed up for us today. Yeah, look good. Yeah, I do.
You have to appreciate the institution, yeah.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So let me just start by saying thank you for always being responsive to me, okay, for whether it's cleaning that stuff up out of the orchard, you name it, you're always there. As Councilwoman Warwick was saying, these little small things mean a big deal to me, at least. Okay, a couple things I just want to go over is the municipal courts building, okay. I talked to Deputy Mayor Pollock, and I told him how dire need we are in doing something there immediately. I was just talking to a judge today, and he said the recessed lighting canister fell down in the courtroom while he was talking. I mean, the place is falling to pieces. I don't have to tell you that. So I know that I promised, there's 4 sheriffs there that share an office about as big as this table, and they don't have heat, they don't have air conditioning, it's just nasty. So obviously we don't have the money to sink into this place, and I don't want to put any money into this place at this point, right? I'm looking to unload this place, but in the meantime, we're going to be stuck with it for the next year at least. So Deputy Pollock had mentioned maybe we could do some in-house, meaning me and you make a trip there, and you know, just like coats of paint, water fountains that are holding standing water, obvious like health hazard things that I feel we need to take care of before we come to a conclusion as to what we do to this place. Do we have those type of resources to say put 3 or 4 people there painting and cleaning? It really needs cleansed as much as anything, honestly.
So I could speak to that.
Yeah, sure.
So we do dispatch our maintenance division for, I don't believe we've done a painting touch-up recently. We've installed handrails that have been requested. Our electrical foreman is working, and our glazer is currently on short term, but they're working on reconfiguring the entrance per their request to make a more streamlined entry and exit to the building. We've repaired, we did door repairs. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there are a couple of other maintenance items, but we have a few contacts there that have access to our system that can make requests. I have an ongoing dialogue with the 2 people that are the day-to-day, basically for lack of a better term, it's not their title, but basically like the maintenance contacts or the maintenance foreman for the building. So we have a good relationship with handling those requests. It does come down to a finite amount of resources and time. As far as cleaning, we are going through. We just finished the cleaning solicitation that will include not just this building, but the MCB as well. We deliberately asked procurement to bid out the MCB separately, so it can get the attention that it needs for the cleaning needs that building has. It's unique compared to this building. So we are doing what we can, but totally, for sure acknowledge that it's a challenging building.
Really, the main thing for me is standing water in a fountain. At least let's get the water out of the fountain and cover it, so people don't have to see that and walk by it. It looks unhealthy. Mold. I see it.
Okay. I'm happy to take a look.
I mean, there's about 12 broken toilets. Okay, if you go through 4 or 5 bathrooms, and men and women, I went through both of them. So yeah, it's just the immediate things. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not looking to revamp this place. I'm not looking to remodel this place. I'm looking to make it clean and sanitary until we decide what we're going to do with it.
Sure.
Immediate attention. That's all.
Happy to follow up with any of the specifics.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I don't know if you had heard earlier or if you had heard the news, but we have more plumbers on staff than we had 3 months ago.
We need a plumber there.
So we can certainly take a look at the fixtures that you mentioned.
Yeah, and if we can't fix it, we can't fix it. Let's at least get the water out and cover it like we did all the broken urinals and toilets. So. Yeah, it's really just health hazards, I feel. And the office that the 4 sheriffs share, I don't know. I'd like to take a look at it and see if we could do something with it. I don't know what. I'm not talking major expense here. I'm just talking make it more inhabitable, that's all.
Okay, we can take a look.
Just for a point of clarity, the sheriffs, you mean the county employees?
They are county employees, yes. 80% of the people in the building, county employees, right?
Yes.
On our dime. I'll have to remind you of that, I know. So, okay, so, yeah, I would like to do anything we can there, just as a stopgap measure to the point where it's going to be a year. They get 6 months for us to even consider it, so it's going to be a year where this is going to be in our hands at least, and, we're going to have to do something. Okay. All in-house. I don't want to spend a dime. I really don't. It's stuff that we can do with a scrub brush, a plumber, whatever we have to do. Okay, so I wanted to address that. But really my main reason why I made sure I ran down here today was make me feel comfortable about this winter. Are we in a good position? Now, I know last year we leased vehicles. Are we doing that again?
Yes, we have 8 leased vehicles for snow and ice, equipped with plows and spreaders.
Got it. Right. We have enough employees who are going to be covering.
Yeah, we're good from a labor resource perspective. Our big limitation is trucks. 78% of our trucks are available to us. I would expect that number to be more like 84, 85%. So that's that's a couple trucks. But as we know from past experience, the trucks become less available to us as the season goes on. The winter can be hard on them as it is on the people. So the maintenance activity is super important. We know that the maintenance activity has its challenges as well, that they're going through to be properly staffed. But we'll do everything that we can to keep the vehicles on the road, but that does become a limitation for us.
Right. I think the leases really helped when we made that move a couple of years ago, just to have the newer vehicles and knowing that we can count on them and making sure we had enough.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I worry because this is our last winter before the Public Works Division, Donnie, is complete. I think this will be our last winter. Will we not be up and running with the new Public Works Division by this time next year, you think?
Yes, we should be. I mean, we've experienced a little bit of a delay, right, the past couple months.
We're used to that on this project.
We're used to that. I don't think the director or any of you could have chose a more colorful site to use, right? So we've now encountered a building underground.
I heard.
As well,
Mines, buildings.
yes, as well as a mine.
COVID, you name it, right?
Right. So, but we've moved past that. I do want to shout out Ann Clark is our new project manager with DPW. She's comes to us from Los Angeles, and she's from Pittsburgh originally, but she's taken over kind of the construction management of it as I do all the other work, right? So, and she's phenomenal. So, the project, and with obviously with Director Gall here, but project's in really, really good hands. And we're moving forward. The foundation conversation is over.
Good.
We now have
We
the
were able to
plan.
work that out. Is there
It's all
financial?
worked out. We now have the plans
Was
for
there
the
financial
caissons and
difficulties there?
everything.
Did we have to put up more money for that, or how did that work? out?
Well, we can talk about that
Okay.
maybe
All right.
offline, but no.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah. No, we did well for the citizens.
Great.
So.
Well, I'm looking forward to that being up and running, and we are going to hold salt there. We're going to have a salt dome there.
There will be a bin there.
A
Probably
bit, yeah.
with
This
a-
way, we
with
don't
a
have to run down
fabric
the.
cover.
We're still going to keep 51.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And 51, we're scheduled to remodel that, or to paint that, or do something, or build a new one, aren't we?
Yeah. Chip, do you want to expand on 51?
Yeah, so we lead times for the glue lamp for the new structure is the biggest bottleneck on that project, and obviously it's critical that facility is available in the winter time. So we need to make sure that that when we bid that and say go, that we're able to execute in a short amount of time because we only have a window. So
End of March. Work on
so
it for 8
that
months
so
to get
the
it done.
the general timeline is the warm months because of the lead times and because of the lead times we were facing and the timelines that it would take to bid the project. We did have to push that back a year, so that won't be. We will be actively bidding that in 25. The construction won't start till 26.
And we're going to build that in the same spot.
Yes.
Okay. So we can't use what we have there while we're building. Like they do
Unfortunately,
stadiums, but
Yeah, the site
right.
just doesn't permit.
This is going to be
it
a
yet.
more attractive site. I mean, I know it's hard to pretty up a concrete dome, but it really is an eyesore. And it's not my district, so I try to keep out of that. But everybody in my district goes by this thing. I see it every day. It's just so. I wish we could just paint it. I mean, is that thing too bad where we have to go through the process of building a new one, or can't we just paint it? It's concrete. Is it damaged? Does it leak? What's wrong with what we have?
I can't speak to that structurally, but I think it's losing its integrity as a
Yeah.
dome itself. So
It's got to be.
yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot, you put salt with metal, it's
Yeah.
not a good mix.
Concrete.
And concrete. It's just
With
not a
salt
good
and
mix.
metal and concrete, as soon as you want intrusion of water, you're going to have rapid deterioration. So the best course of action for the city is to replace that structure. Other salt domes at division locations, I think they're more on the block for a demolition and a replacement with a covered fabric structure. But I think, as you note, that location is right in the public view of tens of thousands of vehicles that pass by it every day. So yeah, it will look substantially more attractive than it does currently.
Good. Do we have money for that yet, or?
There's funding set aside. I mean, obviously, we're gonna have to wait what the bid tells us, but there's been funds set aside to support that. structure.
Yeah, I'd much rather have a new structure. Don't get me wrong, but and I don't want to go putting any resources into this current one if we're got one coming in and say next year, Chip.
Yeah,
At the bid
we'll
next
bid
year?
next year, and then it'll
Yeah, so it'll be a couple years,
That
right?
window will be 26.
Got it. Okay. Okay. I mentioned this to you before about the Alcomundo Center. I'm pulling on you as a veteran and me as a patriotic citizen. Can we get a light on that flag for them? It's so important to them. So it's important to me too. As you know, it's supposed to have a light on it. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when folks, request in for electricians to take a look at it. Just to be clear, I'm not actually a veteran, so I just want to make sure.
I thought you
everybody's
were Army Corps of Engineers.
No. I am. private sector work was as a consultant to the
I
Department of
got
Defense.
you.
but I'm
Okay.
not-
I
not
thought you were a
Grandfather's a veteran, dad's a veteran,
Good enough. I'm not a veteran either, but you know.
veteran adjacent, yeah.
right. But you got patriotism in your blood, and you know,
Absolutely.
that's I would
Absolutely.
love to get a light on that flag.
Absolutely.
I really would. That's like it's a simple thing. I feel, even if it's just a solar light. I don't know how well they work, but you know, just so we're living up to the right protocol there. You know, so. Okay, I really don't have much else. Again, thanks for being there for me in the past for many different things. Anything comes through this winter, you know, hopefully I just pray for not a lot of snow like I have been doing the last couple of years. But they did shut Copperfield down the other day, and there was like a dusting. And, you know, I got a lot of calls saying it's kind of, you know, not necessary to shut Copperfield down. This was just last week, I think.
Right.
Wasn't it last night?
It
No.
was-
Oh, wait, it might have been.
It was last night.
It was last
it
night.
Was that last night?
when we
Okay.
would've, yeah.
So we shut that down anticipating that it might get bad.
Yeah, so we had like last night's storm, we had a variety of forecasts. The worst case from National Weather Service was 2 to 3 inches, high winds, low peak potential for refreeze. Instead, we got the thunder snow with the
saw that. It was
dusting
weird.
and also but the high winds and the refreeze. So we had a lot of icy conditions this morning, the day that we were dealing with. So those are preventative measures to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
We know
And I don't want to be
Copperfield-
the one here telling you you're shutting them down prematurely and then somebody skid down the road
Yeah,
at their house, you
exactly,
know.
right?
So,
Yeah.
so take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I also don't want to go shutting roads down when we don't
What was
need
that
to
in
either.
South
So it's a
Medley?
tricky thing. I know.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing for you all. I know places like Capitol Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, by all means, you know. If,
Rialto.
yeah, Rialto. Yeah, there's
Do
some.
it.
Knew it. Yeah, I could go
Yeah,
on
you
and on
could
in my
go,
district.
yeah.
Right. Pretty much every street, you know. So, okay, Madam Chair, that's it for me. Thanks again for y'all for being here. Donnie, thank you for overseeing the 4th Division project, all the hurdles you faced, and I feel like we're getting to the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
All right, I hope you're there to see you through, even, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'm still
right.
involved.
Okay, good deal,
Yeah.
good deal. Okay,
I
thanks.
just don't have to do the nitty-gritty work.
Right, good enough. Thank you, thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sharlin.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I think I stepped away when you came to me earlier. I will be very quick because I do have to get running here. But obviously we've talked kind of all year about weekly recycling and the need for that in Oakland. I'm really glad to see that coming this year. I did want to ask, and you may have said it, I may have missed it. The route modernization, the route remapping for environmental services. Where are we with that?
Oh, that's great. Marcel, do you mind giving
Sure,
an
I'll
update?
take that. We have just started this week, actually, the install of the mounts on recycling trucks. So as the divisions are coming back from their daily recycling routes, NH equipment is down there installing them right as they are settling for the day. So we expect to complete all the recycling trucks by the end of December. And we will start actually testing all the routes beginning of January for recycling. And then from there, we'll pick up the rest of the trash routes and test those as well. So it'll be the first quarter, we hope to complete all the testing of the routes. So that's where we are. Yeah, happy to have any other questions, details on that.
No, I know that's a huge lift to work on that. I know Chris Mitchell's kind of been bogged down with that for quite some time. So happy to see a conclusion come to that, and I think that I think it's crucially important that we have an even level of labor for those routes. I know we talked a lot about street sweeping. I just want to reiterate that the the lack of equipment there, it comes up a lot, just how we haven't been able to street sweep in the south side really all year. And whatever we need to do to get the street sweepers up, I know that you've talked about that enough, so I don't need to go too far into it, but I do want to just emphasize that if I can. So another question I had, how are we doing on the gold plan?
Sorry, you broke up there. Did you meant say the gold plan?
Yes.
I mean, I think that, we're making positive steps towards that. The additional anti-litter inspectors are a big component of that. I think also, increasing our opportunities for residents to, making it more convenient for residents to access their drop-off locations, also tracks towards that. And then I think also, your inclusion of the quality of life ticketing legislation, doing that are all positive steps that go that are part of the gold plan.
Yeah. Okay. I want to continue seeing progress made there, and really everything else that I was asking kind of has been brought up earlier, so I won't belabor this. I really also do want to thank Public Works for all the work that went into the Garbage Olympics this year. It was a fantastic event. Thank the there's a lot of your crew here that I would like to thank, but I won't belabor it. And we'll be talking soon. I very much appreciate your availability to me kind of at all times. So thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. All right. Well, do you all have any last thoughts or things you want to say?
No, thank you all for your questions and your tremendous support over the years. It's been greatly appreciative. I think everybody here at the table and speaking on behalf of all our workforce, I think we're all in Public Works very passionate about our service to the public, and so can't be done without the support of others such as yourselves and other departments as well. I just want to give a shout out to some of our partner departments that help us, most notably Human Resources, INP, Public Safety, Parks and Rec, and DOMI, who we've just had unbelievable successes with this year, and just looking to continue and grow on those things in the future. And thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you all too. I guess if there's no further questions, can I have a motion to recess?
Motion to recess. Second.
Okay.
Aye.